What if I told you that every defeat you've ever faced, every failure that has knocked you down, every setback that made you question your path, was actually a disguised blessing? What if your greatest victories are not born from your successes, but from your ability to transform failure into fuel for unstoppable persistence? The secret to extraordinary achievement isn't avoiding failure. It's mastering the magic of persistence in the face of temporary defeat. This is the last lesson you'll ever need to learn about resilience, because once you understand this principle, you become untouchable. Stop for a moment and consider the greatest achievers in history. Did they succeed because they never failed? Absolutely not. They succeeded because they understood something that escapes most people. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is the raw material from which success is forged. Every setback was a setup for a comeback. Every temporary defeat was preparation for permanent victory. You've been living under a dangerous illusion. The illusion that failure is something to be avoided, that setbacks are evidence of inadequacy, that temporary defeat means permanent surrender. This illusion has kept you playing small. Thinking small, achieving small, today that ends. The difference between those who achieve extraordinary things and those who live lives of quiet desperation is not talent. It's not luck. It's not circumstances. It's the magic of persistence. And that magic is about to become yours. Listen carefully. Because this may be the most important truth you'll ever hear, there is no such thing as permanent failure, only permanent surrender. Every person who has ever achieved anything meaningful has first mastered this fundamental truth. Failure is not your enemy. It is your teacher, your refiner, your most valuable ally disguised as opposition. The moment you truly understand this, you become dangerous. Dangerous to mediocrity, dangerous to limitation, dangerous to anyone who profits from your small thinking. Because when you see failure as feedback rather than finality, you become unstoppable. When Thomas Edison's laboratory burned down in 1914, destroying millions of dollars worth of equipment and the work of a lifetime, he didn't weep. He called his son and said, "Go get your mother and all her friends. They'll never see a fire like this again." The next morning, he was already making plans to rebuild. Edison understood what most people never grasp. Temporary defeat is not defeat at all. It is information, it is redirection, it is preparation for victory. But Edison's response wasn't natural, it was trained. He had conditioned himself to see opportunity where others saw catastrophe. He had developed the mental reflexes that transformed every setback into a stepping stone. This is what separates the persistent from the defeated. The persistent have trained their minds to automatically extract value from every experience, positive or negative. You have been conditioned to fear failure, to avoid it, to see it as evidence of your inadequacy. This conditioning is your prison, and it was installed by people who profit from your limitations. Your parents, with their well-meaning warnings about being realistic, your teachers with their emphasis on avoiding mistakes rather than learning from them, your employers who want you productive but not independent, your society which rewards conformity over courage. This conditioning runs deep. It whispers in your ear every time you face a challenge. It tells you to play it safe, to avoid risk, to stay comfortable. It makes you interpret every setback as evidence that you should quit, every obstacle as proof that you're not good enough, every failure as confirmation that you should lower your standards. But here's what they don't want you to know. This conditioning is not protecting you. It's imprisoning you. It's keeping you from the very experiences that would develop your strength, your resilience, your ability to persist through anything life throws at you. Consider this scenario. A young entrepreneur loses everything in a business venture. Their first impulse is shame, self-doubt, the desire to retreat. They hear the voices of their conditioning. I should have known better. I should have been more careful. I should have listened to everyone who said it was too risky. This is the voice of permanent defeat speaking. But the person who understands persistence sees this differently. They ask not, why did this happen to me? But what is this teaching me? How is this preparing me for what's coming next? They understand that every failure is a classroom, every setback is curriculum, every temporary defeat is tuition paid toward their eventual success. The weak surrender to temporary defeat. They let one failure define them, one setback derail them, one no convince them to stop asking. They mistake a temporary condition for a permanent verdict. They confuse a closed door with a dead end. They interpret today's failure as tomorrow's impossibility. The strong use temporary defeat as fuel. They understand that every no brings them closer to wise. They know that every closed door reveals another path. They recognize that every failure eliminates one wrong approach and brings them closer to the right one. Which are you, the weak who surrender to temporary defeat, or the strong who use it as fuel? Your first actionable step is this: reframe every failure in your past as education. Right now, write down 3 significant failures from your life. Don't just list them, analyze them. Next to each one, write what it taught you about yourself, about your approach, about what doesn't work. Write what skills it forced you to develop, what knowledge it compelled you to acquire, what strength it demanded you build. You'll discover that your failures have been your greatest teachers all along. They taught you lessons that no success could have taught. They developed muscles that no easy victory could have built. They prepared you for challenges that no smooth path could have equipped you to handle. But here's the crucial point: these lessons only have value if you extract them. If you simply endure failure without learning from it, you waste its gifts. If you let failure defeat you without mining its wisdom, you squander its investment in your development. The persistent person doesn't just survive failure, they harvest it. They squeeze every drop of value from every setback. They refuse to let any defeat go to waste. They understand that failure is expensive tuition, and they're determined to get their money's worth. This is why the persistent achieve extraordinary things. Not because they never fail, but because they fail better, they fail faster, learn quicker, and adjust more rapidly than those who try to avoid failure altogether. They understand that the person who fails the most learns the most, and the person who learns the most eventually succeeds the most. Persistence is not stubborn repetition of the same failed approach. True persistence is intelligent, adaptive, relentless forward movement despite temporary setbacks. It is the compound interest of human achievement. Every persistent action, no matter how small, builds upon the last until an unstoppable momentum is created. Most people underestimate the power of small, consistent actions because they dramatically overestimate the power of large, inconsistent efforts. They believe that success comes from heroic moments, dramatic breakthroughs, and extraordinary efforts. But the truth is that success comes from ordinary actions performed consistently over extraordinary periods of time. The person who exercises for 30 minutes daily doesn't see dramatic results on day 1, or day 10, or even day 30. The changes are so subtle that they're almost imperceptible. But by day 300, the compound effect has created a transformation that seems miraculous to others, but is perfectly predictable to those who understand persistence. This is why most people fail to develop persistence. They're looking for immediate results from their efforts. When they don't see dramatic changes quickly, they conclude that their efforts are ineffective. They abandon their discipline before the compound effect has time to work its magic. But here's what they don't understand. The compound effect is always working. It's either working for you or against you, but it's always working. Every day you choose discipline, you're making a deposit in the compound account of success. Every day you choose to neglect discipline, you're making a withdrawal from that same account. The difference between those who achieve extraordinary things and those who live ordinary lives is not talent, not luck, not circumstances. It's the daily choice to make deposits rather than withdrawals, to choose discipline rather than neglect, to select progress rather than comfort. Consider this scenario. You commit to writing 500 words daily toward your book. Day 1 feels insignificant. You've written only 500 words out of what will eventually be a 70,000-word manuscript. It seems like nothing. It feels like you're making no progress. But day 30, you've written 15,000 words. Day 140, 5,000 words. Day 150, you have a completed manuscript. The magic wasn't in any single day's effort. It was in the compound effect of daily discipline. This is how extraordinary achievements are built. Not through moments of inspiration, but through months of perspiration. Not through bursts of motivation, but through consistency of application. Not through perfect days, but through persistent days. The key insight is this: you don't need to feel motivated to maintain discipline. You don't need to feel inspired to take action. You don't need to feel energetic to make progress. You simply need to show up and do the work regardless of how you feel. This is where most people fail. They make their discipline conditional on their feelings. They exercise when they feel motivated. They work on their goals when they feel inspired. They take action when they feel energetic. But feelings are unreliable. They fluctuate based on circumstances, weather, sleep, stress, and countless other factors. The persistent person makes their discipline independent of their feelings. They understand that feelings are temporary, but discipline is permanent. They know that motivation is unreliable, but habits are dependable. They recognize that inspiration is sporadic, but action is consistent. Your sixth actionable step: choose one daily discipline that directly supports your most important goal. This should be something specific, measurable, and achievable. It could be reading for 30 minutes, writing for 20 minutes, exercising for 45 minutes, or practicing a skill for an hour. The key is to choose something that you can commit to doing every single day for 100 days, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what obstacles arise, regardless of whether you see immediate results. Start small. It's better to commit to 10 minutes daily and maintain it than to commit to 2 hours daily and abandon it after a week. The goal is not to create the perfect discipline, but to create the persistent discipline. Write down your commitment. Make it specific. Instead of "I will exercise daily," write "I will walk for 30 minutes daily at 60 odom." Instead of "I will work on my business daily," write "I will spend 45 minutes daily on business development from 7:00 p.m. to 7:45 p.m." This specificity eliminates decision fatigue and removes the opportunity for excuses. You're not deciding what to do each day. You're simply executing a predetermined plan. But here's what will happen: your conditioning will resist this discipline. It will give you countless reasons why today is different, why you should skip just this once, why you deserve a break. It will argue that one day doesn't matter, that you can catch up tomorrow, that you need to be flexible. This is the test of true persistence. This is where you prove to yourself that you have what it takes to achieve extraordinary things. When the excuses come, you ignore them. When the resistance arises, you push through it. When the temptation to quit emerges, you take action anyway. Because here's what you'll discover: the magic of persistence is not in the individual actions, but in the proof of character that comes from consistent action. Every day you maintain your discipline. You're proving to yourself that you are the kind of person who does what they say they'll do. Every day you keep your commitment, you're building evidence that you can be trusted with bigger challenges. This evidence accumulates over time. It creates an unshakable confidence in your ability to persist through anything. It builds a foundation of self-trust that cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks or external criticism. The compound effect of daily discipline creates more than just progress toward your goals. It creates a transformation of your identity. You begin to see yourself as a disciplined person, a persistent person, a person who follows through on commitments. This identity shift is more valuable than any external achievement because it ensures that you'll continue to achieve throughout your life. The master of persistence has learned the alchemy of transformation. They possess the ability to transform every setback into a stepping stone, every obstacle into an opportunity, every failure into fuel for future success. This transformation doesn't happen automatically. It requires a conscious choice, a deliberate shift in perspective, a refusal to accept the surface interpretation of events. When faced with a setback, the persistent person asks not, "Why is this happening to me?" but "How is this serving me?" This question is revolutionary because it shifts you from victim to victor, from passive to active, from defeated to determined. It forces you to look for the benefit in every challenge, the opportunity in every obstacle, the lesson in every loss. Every setback contains within it the seeds of greater success, but only for those who know how to look for them. The person who masters this transformation becomes unstoppable because they've learned to extract value from every experience, positive or negative. This is not positive thinking. This is strategic thinking. It's not about pretending that setbacks are good. It's about finding the good that can come from setbacks. It's not about denying the reality of obstacles. It's about discovering the opportunities that obstacles create. When Napoleon Hill's business ventures failed multiple times, he didn't see these as wasted years. He saw them as research for his masterwork, Think and Grow Rich. Every failure taught him something about the mindset of success. Every setback revealed another principle of achievement. His failures became the foundation for his greatest success. Hill understood that failure is not the opposite of success, but the preparation for success. He realized that setbacks are not roadblocks, but redirections. He recognized that obstacles are not punishments, but preparation. This perspective allowed him to persist through challenges that would have defeated others. Instead of being discouraged by failure, he was educated by it. Instead of being defeated by setbacks, he was directed by them. Instead of being stopped by obstacles, he was strengthened by them. The transformation process has 4 stages: recognition, reframing, extraction, and application. Recognition is acknowledging the setback without denial or minimization. It's looking directly at what happened without trying to pretend it didn't happen or wasn't significant. This stage requires honesty and courage. Reframing is shifting your perspective from "this is happening to me" to "this is happening for me." It's moving from victim mentality to victor mentality. It's choosing to see the setback as a setup for a comeback. Extraction is mining the setback for its valuable lessons, insights, and opportunities. It's asking questions like, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? What opportunities does this create? How can I use this experience to help others? Application is using what you've learned to improve your approach, strengthen your resolve, and increase your chances of future success. It's taking the lessons from the setback and applying them to your next attempt. Picture this: you face a major setback in your career. You lose a job, a promotion passes you by, a business venture fails. The natural response is disappointment, frustration, even anger. These emotions are normal and should be acknowledged. But after processing these emotions, the persistent person moves into transformation mode. They recognize that this setback, while painful, is not permanent. They reframe it as a redirection towards something better. They extract the lessons about what didn't work and why. They apply these lessons to their next opportunity. The average person sees this as a defeat. The persistent person sees it as education. The average person asks, why did this happen to me? The persistent person asks, how can I use this to become better? This shift in questioning is crucial because questions direct focus, and focus determines results. When you ask victim questions, you get victim answers. When you ask victor questions, you get victor answers. Your seventh actionable step: identify your most recent significant setback. This should be something that genuinely disappointed you, something that made you question your path or abilities. Now, apply the transformation process recognition. Write down exactly what happened without sugarcoating or minimizing. Be honest about the impact it had on you. Reframing. Write down how this setback might be serving your ultimate success. How might it be protecting you from something worse? How might it be preparing you for something better? Extraction. Write down 10 specific lessons you learned from this setback. What did it teach you about your approach? What did it reveal about your assumptions? What skills did it force you to develop? Application. Write down how you will apply these lessons to your next attempt. How will you modify your approach? What will you do differently? How will you use this experience to increase your chances of success? This exercise will train your mind to automatically look for the opportunity in every obstacle. It will develop your ability to extract value from every experience. It will strengthen your capacity to persist through any challenge. But here's what you'll discover: the lessons from your setbacks are often more valuable than the lessons from your successes. Success teaches you what works, but failure teaches you what doesn't work. Success confirms your assumptions, but failure challenges them. Success makes you confident, but failure makes you wise. The person who has never failed has never been tested. They don't know their limits, their capabilities, or their true character. They've never had to dig deep to find resources they didn't know they had, to discover strength they didn't know they possessed. But the person who has failed and persisted has been forged in the fire of adversity. They know what they're capable of because they've been tested. They understand their strength because they've used it. They trust their resilience because they've proven it. This is why the most successful people often have the most failures. They've failed more, learned more, and grown more than those who played it safe. They've been tested more, challenged more, and strengthened more than those who avoided risk. The transformation of setbacks into stepping stones is not just a skill, it's a superpower. It makes you anti-fragile, meaning you don't just survive challenges, you thrive because of them. It makes you unstoppable because every obstacle becomes an opportunity to grow stronger. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a strategic tool for achieving success. The person who understands persistence doesn't avoid failure. They use it strategically, deliberately, as a means of accelerating their progress toward their goals. This concept challenges everything you've been taught about failure. From childhood, you were taught that failure is bad, that it should be avoided, that it's evidence of inadequacy. But this conditioning is not just wrong, it's counterproductive. It causes you to play it safe, to avoid risk, to settle for less than your potential. The truth is that failure is information. It's data about what doesn't work. It's intelligence about what to avoid. It's guidance about what to change. Every failure provides invaluable feedback that success cannot provide. Every failure eliminates one wrong approach and brings you closer to the right one. Every failure teaches you something that success cannot teach. Every failure develops capabilities that success cannot develop. This is why the most successful people often have the most failures. They fail faster, learn quicker, and adjust more rapidly than those who try to avoid failure altogether. They understand that failure is not something to be endured, but something to be leveraged. The strategic use of failure requires a fundamental shift in how you think about and approach challenges. Instead of trying to avoid failure, you try to fail fast and learn quickly. Instead of fearing failure, you embrace it as a necessary part of the learning process. Instead of being defeated by failure, you are educated by it. Consider the approach of successful entrepreneurs. They don't spend years perfecting a business plan before taking action. They launch quickly, fail fast, learn immediately, and adjust rapidly. Each failure brings them closer to the successful approach, but only if they persist through the learning process. This approach is called failing forward. It means that every failure moves you forward rather than backward. It means that every mistake becomes progress rather than regress. It means that every setback becomes a setup for a comeback. But failing forward requires two things: speed and learning. You must fail quickly so you can learn quickly. You must extract lessons from each failure so you can apply them to your next attempt. Without speed, you waste time. Without learning, you waste failure. The traditional approach to avoiding failure is actually slower and less effective than the strategic approach of embracing failure. When you try to avoid failure, you move cautiously, tentatively, slowly. You spend excessive time planning and insufficient time doing. You try to perfect your approach before testing it. But when you embrace failure strategically, you move boldly, quickly, decisively. You spend sufficient time planning and maximum time doing. You test your approach quickly and perfect it through iteration. Imagine you're developing a new skill. You could spend months studying theory, trying to perfect your understanding before attempting anything practical. Or you could begin practicing immediately, failing frequently, learning rapidly, and improving continuously. Which approach do you think produces faster results? Which approach do you think develops greater competence? Which approach do you think builds more confidence? The answer is obvious. Yet most people choose the first approach because they're trying to avoid failure. They're more concerned with looking good than getting good. They're more worried about protecting their ego than improving their performance. But the persistent person chooses the second approach because they understand that failure is not the enemy of success, but the pathway to success. They're more concerned with getting good than looking good. They're more worried about improving their performance than protecting their ego. Your 8th actionable step: identify one area where you've been avoiding action because you're afraid of failure. This might be a skill you want to develop, a goal you want to pursue, or a challenge you want to tackle. Take one imperfect action in that area today. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until you have all the information. Don't wait until you're guaranteed success. Just take action, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect, even if it might fail. Use the results, whether success or failure, as information to improve your next action. If you succeed, analyze what worked and how you can replicate it. If you fail, analyze what didn't work and how you can improve it. This practice will train you to see failure as feedback rather than finality. It will develop your ability to learn from mistakes rather than be defeated by them. It will build your confidence in your ability to handle whatever happens. But here's what you'll discover: most of your fears about failure are worse than the reality of failure. The anticipation of failure is often more painful than the experience of failure. The fear of failure is often more limiting than the failure itself. When you start taking action despite the possibility of failure, you'll realize that failure is not as devastating as you imagined. You'll discover that you're more resilient than you thought. You'll learn that you can handle whatever happens. This realization is incredibly liberating. It frees you from the prison of perfectionism. It releases you from the paralysis of over-preparation. It enables you to take bold action and make rapid progress. The strategic use of failure is not about being reckless or careless. It's about being smart and strategic. It's about understanding that the fastest way to success is through failure, not around it. It's about recognizing that the most efficient path to mastery is through mistakes, not despite them. The person who masters the strategic use of failure becomes unstoppable because they're no longer afraid of the very thing that stops most people. They've learned to dance with failure, to partner with it, to use it as an ally rather than fear it as an enemy. Mental toughness is not something you're born with. It's something you develop through the deliberate practice of persistence in the face of adversity. Every time you continue when you feel like quitting, every time you take action despite fear, every time you persist through discomfort, you're building mental toughness. The persistent person doesn't try to avoid adversity. They embrace it as the gymnasium of mental strength. They understand that comfort is the enemy of growth, that ease is the enemy of excellence, that smooth paths lead to weak muscles. This is a radical concept in a world that constantly seeks comfort, convenience, and ease. Everything around you is designed to make life easier, more comfortable, more convenient. But what's good for your comfort is often bad for your character. What's good for your convenience is often bad for your capabilities. Mental toughness is like physical fitness. It must be developed through progressive challenge and consistent practice. Just as you can't develop physical strength without resistance, you can't develop mental toughness without adversity. The Navy SEALs have a phrase, embrace the suck. They understand that discomfort is temporary, but the mental toughness developed through adversity is permanent. They don't try to avoid difficult situations. They seek them out because they know that's where strength is built. This mental toughness becomes your most valuable asset. It allows you to persist when others quit, to continue when others rest, to believe when others doubt. It's the difference between those who achieve their dreams and those who merely dream about achievement. But mental toughness is not about being hard or insensitive. It's about being resilient and adaptable. It's not about ignoring pain or discomfort. It's about persisting through pain and discomfort. It's not about being emotionless. It's about not being controlled by emotions. The mentally tough person feels fear but acts despite it. They experience doubt but persist despite it. They face obstacles but continue despite them. They don't deny their emotions. They don't let their emotions control their actions. This is the essence of mental toughness, the ability to maintain performance under pressure. It's the capacity to think clearly when others are panicking. It's the skill of making good decisions when others are making emotional ones. It's the strength to continue forward when others are turning back. Consider this. You're facing a particularly challenging period in your goal pursuit. Everything seems to be going wrong. Your plans are falling apart. Your timeline is being delayed. Your confidence is being shaken. Your first instinct is to retreat, to wait for conditions to improve, to take a break until things get easier. But the person building mental toughness sees this as a training opportunity. They lean into the difficulty, knowing that every moment of persistence is making them stronger. They understand that this adversity is not punishment but preparation. They recognize that this challenge is not a roadblock, but a strength-building exercise. The mentally tough person doesn't wait for conditions to improve. They improve their ability to handle conditions. They don't wait for challenges to go away. They develop their capacity to overcome challenges. They don't wait for life to get easier. They get stronger at dealing with difficulty. This is why some people seem to thrive under pressure while others crumble. It's not that they don't feel pressure. It's that they've trained themselves to perform under pressure. They've developed the mental toughness to maintain their effectiveness regardless of external circumstances. Your ninth actionable step, identify one area of your life where you've been avoiding discomfort. This might be a difficult conversation you need to have, a challenging skill you need to develop, or a tough decision you need to make. Deliberately engage with that discomfort for 15 minutes, daily for the next week. If it's a difficult conversation, spend 15 minutes preparing for it. If it's a challenging skill, spend 15 minutes practicing it. If it's a tough decision, spend 15 minutes analyzing it. This controlled exposure to discomfort will gradually build your mental toughness. It will increase your tolerance for difficulty. It will develop your ability to persist through challenges. But here's what you'll discover: most discomfort is not as bad as you imagine it to be. The anticipation of discomfort is often worse than the experience of discomfort. The fear of difficulty is often more limiting than the difficulty itself. When you start deliberately engaging with discomfort, you realize that you're stronger than you thought. You discover that you can handle more than you imagined. You learn that your capacity for persisting through adversity is greater than you believed. This realization is transformative. It changes how you see challenges. It alters how you approach obstacles. It transforms how you think about yourself and your capabilities. The mentally tough person is not someone who never faces adversity. They're someone who faces adversity and grows stronger because of it. They're not someone who never feels discomfort. They're someone who feels discomfort and persists despite it. Mental toughness is the ultimate competitive advantage because it's the one capability that makes all other capabilities possible. You can have great skills, but without mental toughness, you'll abandon them when things get difficult. You can have brilliant strategies, but without mental toughness, you'll change them when they face resistance. You can have ambitious goals, but without mental toughness, you'll lower them when they require sacrifice. But with mental toughness, you can develop any skill, execute any strategy, and achieve any goal. Mental toughness is the foundation upon which all other achievements are built. The persistent mindset is fundamentally different from the average mindset. Where others see permanent problems, the persistent person sees temporary challenges. Where others see insurmountable obstacles, the persistent person sees opportunities for growth. Where others see reasons to quit, the persistent person sees reasons to continue. This mindset is not natural. It must be cultivated, developed, and reinforced through conscious practice. The persistent person doesn't accidentally develop this mindset. They deliberately choose it, practice it, and strengthen it daily. The persistence mindset operates on three core beliefs. First, that every setback is temporary. Second, that every obstacle can be overcome. And third, that persistence always pays off, even if not in the way originally expected. These beliefs are not mere positive thinking. They are strategic choices that enable continued action in the face of discouragement. When you truly believe that setbacks are temporary, you don't waste energy on permanent worry. When you truly believe that obstacles can be overcome, you focus on solutions rather than problems. When you truly believe that persistence pays off, you continue when others quit. Let me be clear, these beliefs are not about denying reality or pretending that challenges don't exist. They're about choosing the most empowering interpretation of reality. They're about selecting the perspective that enables action rather than paralysis. The first belief, that every setback is temporary, is based on the understanding that everything in life is temporary. Good times don't last forever, but neither do bad times. Success is temporary, but so is failure. Progress is temporary, but so are obstacles. This belief allows you to maintain perspective during difficult times. It prevents you from making permanent decisions based on temporary circumstances. It enables you to persist through challenges because you understand that they will pass. The second belief, that every obstacle can be overcome, is based on the understanding that human ingenuity and persistence are more powerful than any obstacle. Throughout history, humans have overcome seemingly impossible challenges through creativity, determination, and persistence. This belief allows you to approach obstacles with confidence rather than fear. It enables you to look for solutions rather than focus on problems. It empowers you to see obstacles as puzzles to be solved rather than walls to stop you. The third belief, that persistence always pays off, is based on the understanding that the act of persisting always creates value, even if the original goal is not achieved. Persistence develops character, builds strength, creates opportunities, and opens doors that would otherwise remain closed. This belief allows you to continue even when the outcome is uncertain. It enables you to maintain effort even when progress is slow. It empowers you to keep going even when others think you should quit. Picture this: you're facing a series of setbacks in your goal pursuit. Your plans are being delayed. Your resources are being stretched. Your confidence is being tested. The average mindset says, maybe this isn't meant to be. Maybe I should try something else. Maybe I should lower my expectations. But the persistence mindset says, this is exactly what I expected. Every goal worth achieving faces resistance. This resistance is proof I'm on the right path. These setbacks are temporary. These obstacles can be overcome. This persistence will pay off. This shift in thinking is powerful because it changes your emotional response to challenges. Instead of feeling defeated by setbacks, you feel determined. Instead of feeling discouraged by obstacles, you feel challenged. Instead of feeling like quitting, you feel like continuing. The persistence mindset also includes what I call outcome independence. This means that while you're committed to achieving your goal, you're not attached to achieving it in a specific way or by a specific time. You're open to the possibility that your goal might be achieved differently than you originally planned. This flexibility is crucial because it prevents you from being devastated when things don't go according to plan. It allows you to adjust your methods while maintaining your destination. It enables you to persist through unexpected challenges because you're not rigidly attached to a specific path. Your 10th actionable step, write down the 3 core beliefs of the persistence mindset on a card or piece of paper. Read them aloud every morning for the next 30 days. This repetition will embed these beliefs into your subconscious mind, making persistence your default response to challenges. But don't just read them mechanically. Think about what each belief means for your current situation. How does believing that setbacks are temporary change your approach to current challenges? How does believing that obstacles can be overcome change your problem-solving strategy? How does believing that persistence always pays off change your commitment to your goals? This daily practice will gradually rewire your thinking patterns. It will train your mind to automatically look for the temporary nature of setbacks, the solvable nature of obstacles, and the value of persistence. But here's what will happen. Your old mindset will resist this change. It will try to convince you that these beliefs are naive, unrealistic, or dangerous. It will point to examples of people who persisted and failed, obstacles that couldn't be overcome, setbacks that became permanent. This resistance is normal and expected. Your old mindset is trying to protect you from disappointment, from taking risks, from facing challenges. But it's also preventing you from achieving your potential, from growing stronger, from becoming the person you're capable of becoming. The persistence mindset is not about being naive or ignoring reality. It's about choosing the most empowering interpretation of reality. It's about selecting the perspective that enables action rather than paralysis, progress rather than stagnation, growth rather than decline. The person with the persistence mindset is not someone who never faces difficulties. They're someone who faces difficulties with the right mindset. They're not someone who never doubts. They're someone who doubts but persists anyway. They're not someone who never fails. They're someone who fails and keeps going. This mindset is your most powerful tool for developing persistence because it shapes how you interpret every experience. It determines whether you see obstacles as stop signs or speed bumps. It influences whether you interpret setbacks as defeats or detours. It affects whether you view challenges as threats or opportunities. Persistence is sustained not by waiting for major breakthroughs, but by celebrating small victories along the way. The person who understands persistence has learned to find encouragement in small progress, to see momentum in minor improvements, to find fuel in small wins. This is crucial because major victories are rare, but small victories are available daily. The person who only celebrates major wins will spend most of their time discouraged. The person who celebrates small wins builds a foundation of positive momentum that sustains them through longer challenges. Small victories compound into large achievements. The writer who celebrates completing one page builds momentum for completing a chapter. The entrepreneur who celebrates their first sale builds momentum for their first profitable month. The athlete who celebrates improving their time by 1 second builds momentum for breaking their personal record. These small victories are not consolation prizes. They are the building blocks of extraordinary achievement. Every person who has accomplished something significant has built their success on a foundation of small victories celebrated and leveraged. But here's what most people don't understand. Small victories are easy to miss if you're not looking for them. They're subtle, gradual, incremental. They don't announce themselves with fanfare or celebration. They whisper rather than shout, suggest rather than proclaim, hint rather than declare. The person who only looks for big victories will miss the small victories that are happening every day. They'll focus on what's not working rather than what is working. They'll see problems rather than progress. They'll notice setbacks rather than steps forward. This is why many people feel like they're not making progress even when they are. They're measuring progress by the wrong standard. They're looking for dramatic changes when they should be looking for gradual improvements. They're expecting giant leaps when they should be appreciating small steps. The persistent person has trained themselves to see small victories everywhere. They celebrate the first phone call made, the first page written, the first mile run. They acknowledge the first customer contacted, the first skill practiced, the first fear faced. This celebration is not about lowering standards or accepting mediocrity. It's about recognizing that all great achievements begin with small steps. It's about understanding that momentum is built through accumulation, not through single events. Consider this approach. Instead of waiting until you achieve your final goal to celebrate, identify small milestones along the way. If your goal is to write a book, celebrate completing the first chapter. If your goal is to build a business, celebrate making the first sale. If your goal is to lose weight, celebrate losing the first pound. Each small victory becomes fuel for the next action. Each small celebration becomes momentum for continued persistence. Each small acknowledgement becomes evidence that you're moving in the right direction. Your 11th actionable step: identify 5 small victories you've achieved recently in pursuit of your goals. These might be actions you've taken, obstacles you've overcome, skills you've developed, or progress you've made. Write them down and acknowledge their importance. Don't minimize them or dismiss them as insignificant. Recognize that these small victories are the foundation of your larger success. Then identify 5 small victories you can achieve this week. These should be specific, measurable, and achievable within 7 days. They should be challenging enough to feel meaningful, but achievable enough to build momentum. This practice will train your mind to see progress everywhere. It will develop your ability to find encouragement in small improvements. It will build your skill at maintaining momentum through incremental progress. But here's what you'll discover: small victories are more motivating than you think. They provide immediate positive reinforcement for your efforts. They create a sense of progress and momentum. They build confidence in your ability to achieve larger goals. The compound interest of small victories works like this. Each small victory makes the next action easier. Each small win builds confidence for the next challenge. Each small success creates momentum for the next step. Over time, these small victories accumulate into something significant. The writer who celebrates each page eventually celebrates a completed book. The entrepreneur who celebrates each sale eventually celebrates a profitable business. The athlete who celebrates each improvement eventually celebrates a personal record. This is the magic of compound interest applied to achievements. Just as small amounts of money invested consistently over time grow into significant wealth, small victories celebrated consistently over time grow into significant achievements. The key insight is this: you don't need to wait for permission to celebrate. You don't need to wait for others to acknowledge your progress. You don't need to wait for major milestones to feel good about your efforts. You can celebrate small victories immediately. You can acknowledge progress daily. You can feel good about your efforts right now. This self-generated positive reinforcement is incredibly powerful because it makes you independent of external validation. You don't need others to recognize your progress because you recognize it yourself. You don't need others to celebrate your victories because you celebrate them yourself. The person who masters the compound interest of small victories becomes unstoppable because they're constantly fueled by their own progress. They're always finding reasons to continue rather than reasons to quit. They're always building momentum rather than losing it. Persistence is not just about achieving external goals. It's about building the kind of relationships that support and sustain your journey. The persistent person invests in relationships that encourage their growth, challenge their thinking, and support their vision. This requires persistence in relationship building. It means consistently showing up, consistently adding value, consistently being the kind of person others want to support. It means persisting through misunderstandings, persisting through disappointments, persisting through the natural challenges that arise in any meaningful relationship. The persistent person doesn't just accumulate relationships. They cultivate them. They understand that meaningful relationships require the same kind of consistent investment that any other important goal requires. But here's the key. The persistent person also has the courage to walk away from relationships that consistently drain their energy, doubt their vision, or discourage their growth. They understand that not all relationships serve their highest good, and they have the strength to choose growth over comfort. This is not about being selfish or uncaring. It's about being strategic and protective of your mental and emotional resources. Just as you wouldn't invest your money in ventures that consistently lose value, you shouldn't invest your time and energy in relationships that consistently diminish your potential. The persistent person recognizes that their relationships either support their persistence or undermine it. There's no neutral ground. People either encourage your growth or discourage it. They either believe in your vision or doubt it. They either add to your energy or drain it. This recognition leads to what I call relationship curation. Just as a museum curator carefully selects which pieces to display and which to store, the persistent person carefully selects which relationship to prioritize and which to minimize. Consider the relationships in your life. Which ones consistently encourage your persistence? Which ones consistently discourage it? Which ones leave you feeling energized and motivated? Which ones leave you feeling drained and discouraged? The persistent person invests more time and energy in the encouraging relationships while gracefully distancing themselves from the discouraging ones. They understand that this is not cruel or selfish. It's strategic and necessary. Your 12th actionable step: identify 3 relationships that consistently support your growth and 3 that consistently discourage it. Be honest about this assessment. Don't let your emotions about these people cloud your judgment about their impact on your persistence. The supporters are those who believe in your vision even when they don't understand it. They encourage you to persist even when progress seems slow. They celebrate your small victories and help you learn from your setbacks. They may not always have the answers, but they always have faith in your ability to find them. The discouragers are those who consistently question your judgment, criticize your methods, and predict your failure. They may mean well, but their impact is toxic to your persistence. They drain your energy, cloud your thinking, and weaken your resolve. For the next month, invest more time in the supportive relationships. People misunderstand persistence. They think it means doing the same thing over and over, hoping for different results. This is not persistence. This is insanity. True persistence combines consistency with intelligence, determination with adaptability, relentlessness with learning. The persistent person doesn't repeat failed approaches. They learn from them. They adjust their methods while maintaining their destination. They change their tactics while preserving their strategy. They modify their approach while strengthening their resolve. This is what creates the compound power of persistent action. Each attempt builds upon the knowledge gained from the previous attempt. Each failure eliminates one wrong approach and brings you closer to the right one. Each setback provides information that makes the next attempt more likely to succeed. Most people quit 3 feet from goal. They work, they struggle, they face obstacles, and just when breakthrough is imminent, they surrender. But here's what they don't understand. Breakthrough always comes disguised as breakdown. Your greatest victories will emerge from your darkest moments of doubt. The gold rush miners of the 1800s understood this principle literally. They would spend months, sometimes years, digging in the same area, finding nothing but dirt and disappointment. Many would give up and abandon their claims. But the persistent miners knew that gold was often found just 3 feet below where others had stopped digging. Are you? Darby's uncle was one of these miners. He had struck gold and mined a fortune, but then the vein disappeared. He kept digging but found nothing. Eventually, he gave up and sold his equipment to a junk dealer. The junk dealer brought in a mining engineer to examine the mine. The engineer determined that the vein would be found just 3 feet from where Darby's uncle had stopped digging. The junk dealer became wealthy from gold that was literally 3 feet away from Darby's uncle. This story illustrates the tragedy of those who quit too soon. They do the work, they pay the price, they face the challenges, but they surrender just before breakthrough. They let temporary defeat become permanent failure. They mistake a pause for a stop, a delay for a denial, a detour for a dead end. But the persistent person understands that breakthrough always comes disguised as breakdown. When things get darkest, when obstacles seem insurmountable, when everyone else is quitting, the persistent person recognizes these as signs that breakthrough is imminent. The bamboo tree is nature's perfect example of this principle. For 5 years, it shows no visible growth above ground. 5 years of what appears to be nothing. To the casual observer, it looks like failure, it looks like wasted effort, it looks like time to give up and plant something else. But then, in the 6th year, it shoots up 90 feet in 6 weeks. 90 feet in 6 weeks. Was it doing nothing for 5 years? No, it was building an unshakable foundation, developing a root system so strong that rapid growth became inevitable. The 5 years of apparent inactivity were actually years of invisible preparation. You are that bamboo tree. Every day you persist. Every action you take despite not seeing immediate results, you are building something powerful beneath the surface. You are developing the root system of success. You are creating the foundation for breakthrough. Your breakthrough is not late. It is right on time. It is not delayed. It is developing. It is not denied. It is being prepared. Every day of persistence is adding to the momentum that will soon become unstoppable. But here's the key. You cannot see this development with your physical eyes. You cannot measure this progress with conventional metrics. You cannot track this growth with ordinary tools. This is why most people quit. They judge their progress by external appearances rather than internal development. The persistent person understands this. They measure progress not by what they can see, but by what they can feel. They track development not by external results, but by internal growth. They gauge success not by immediate outcomes, but by consistent action. Imagine this: you've been working toward a goal for 2 years. Progress seems slow, obstacles seem endless, results seem minimal. Doubt creeps in. The voice of conditioning whispers, maybe this isn't meant to be. Maybe you should try something else. Maybe you should lower your expectations. This is the moment of truth. This is where the persistent separate themselves from the defeated. This is where those who achieve extraordinary things prove they are different from those who settle for ordinary results. The defeated person listens to the voice of conditioning. They interpret the lack of immediate results as evidence of future failure. They mistake temporary challenges for permanent impossibilities. They confuse the natural resistance that comes with meaningful goals for signs that they should quit. But the person who understands persistence recognizes this as the moment just before breakthrough. They understand that resistance is not a sign to quit, but a sign to persist. They know that obstacles are not evidence of wrong direction, but confirmation of right destination. They recognize that the darkest hour is just before dawn. Instead of slowing down, they accelerate. Instead of retreating, they advance. Instead of doubting, they double down. They understand that this is exactly the moment when persistence pays its highest dividends.